Hello and welcome to this episode of the Spiced In Podcast. My name is Jacob and I'm your host. Welcome to the show that is all about Star Wars, and for all the Star Wars addicts out there, we got quite the show today. We're talking about Thrawn Ascendancy, Chaos Rising. So this book came out last Tuesday, so it is very new still. I'm sure most people listening have not listened or have not finished reading. That's perfectly fine. We're going to be doing some news, some updates. We're going to do a bit of a non-spoiler discussion, some just general overview, oversight, how I felt about the book in general before I get into spoilers. And there will be a very clear spoiler warning, so don't worry about that. You know, if you want to listen up to that point, finish up your reading and then come back and hear what I have to say, that's perfectly fine. But yeah, with that said, we're going to hop into the news real quick. We have a few things to talk about. This past week was pretty filled. We, of course, on Tuesday got the release of Thrawn Ascendancy, Chaos Rising by Timothy Zahn, the first book in the new Ascendancy trilogy. And obviously we're going to be talking about that in a bit. We also got a reveal of Yoda as part of the High Republic. So as you all should know by now, the High Republic is the new publishing arc or publishing initiative from Lucasfilm that will be encompassing books and comic books and take place around 200 years before The Phantom Menace. Naturally, we know Yoda's, pretty old, so like about, 900 years old at the time of Return of the Jedi? Was it 900 or 700? Either way, 200 years ago, he's obviously still going to be a Jedi at that point, so we were finally revealed and told that he is indeed going to be a part of the High Republic. We got some concept art of him, which looked really cool. One with a golden robe, which makes sense for this being the golden age of the Jedi Order, and the other with a more grayish robe. And the cool thing I saw on it was at the skirt of the robe, there's this kind of almost looks like a fern design on the robe, which is the same as the design on the High Republic kind of logo. So I thought that was cool. That was shown, and he's going to be specifically in the Test of Courage junior novel by Justina Ireland, so we can look forward to him there. We will see if he's going to be doing anything more outside of that, but there's our first confirmation of Yoda in the High Republic, so big news there. The other huge news this week was we finally got a release date for The Mandalorian. So The Mandalorian Season 2 will be airing October 30th on Disney+. As far as we're aware, it should probably be a week-to-week situation like it was last season. But yeah, that's the first. We finally know when you can expect Season 2. I will definitely probably be doing a rewatch, and I might. I'm not going to do an individual episode rewatch and for the podcast, but I would probably do the whole season do the whole season and then come back maybe the week or two before the next season comes out, do kind of a reflections and predictions podcast going into Season 2. So, yeah, October 30th on Disney Plus is when you can expect The Mandalorian Season 2 to drop. But yeah, obviously huge news there. Hopefully we'll have a trailer within the next, I would say you'd have to have a trailer within the next 2 to 3 days, probably. But, we'll see. Speaking of The Mandalorian, though, I talked about it last week. The Mandalorian Razor Crest Lego set was coming out, and there was some weird stuff happening with it. There was rumors about some copyright issues, some trademark issues. It got pulled from the Lego store unexpectedly, and there was no announcement about what was going on. And I was like, well, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Mine was ordered through Amazon, so we'll see. And sure enough, it came on Wednesday, I believe. So I have the set. It says Razor Crest on the box, and it's listed back up on the US Lego website as the Razor Crest. There's rumors it was going to change to the Mandalorian bounty hunter cargo ship or something like that, something super generic. But it's still up. So I have no idea what happened there. I don't know if there's just some last minute hiccup they had to work through, and then they got it sorted out. So then they put it back on the website. But it's out. I have the set. I mentioned it before, but I hope to do another build video like I did for the Resistance Y-Wing and post it on YouTube. But yeah, we'll see. Hopefully I'll try to do that within the next maybe week or so. It just depends on when I have free time, because it is quite a large set compared to the Y-Wing. So yeah, we got that. I think that's probably about it for news as far as that goes. We'll have more Mando coming soon. Yeah, now that I've finished Thrawn, so we're gonna have to move on to a different book now. I've been saying that I'm gonna get to these for like the past 2 months, but definitely Queen's Peril. The follow up to the Queen's Shadow book by E.K. Johnston is high on the list, as well as the Dr. Aphra audio drama. The only other thing I'm thinking of is maybe starting with going to Alphabet Squadron. They announced the last book in that trilogy is coming out in March, and I haven't even started the trilogy. And I've heard they're fantastic books. I definitely need to get on that as well. One last thing before we get into the actual discussion of Thrawn. I've been posting a little bit more recently on the website, thespicedin.com, so go check that out if you haven't yet. I posted a review of both non-spoiler and spoiler portions of that review for Thrawn on the website. We have a few other book reviews there. I think I also posted the Clone Wars Stories of Light and Dark review. So I'm going to be posting reviews with every book I read from here on out. I don't want to go back and review books I've read before, but I'm not fresh on. If I go and do a reread, of course I will post a review. But yeah, any new book I read, you'll get a review there. And if you like the review, if that helps you make a purchasing decision on the book, I'd appreciate if you check out all of the reviews have a Amazon link. Those are all affiliate links, so if you go and purchase your book through Amazon, it costs the same to you. But I get a small little kickback that can at the very least, help offset my hosting costs for the website. So, no pressure. But if you're gonna buy the book anyways, and I helped you make your decision, I would really appreciate you checking out that link. So, with that out of the way, I think that's all we have, and it's time to hop into Thrawn Ascendancy Chaos Rising discussion. So like I said earlier, we're going to start with a non-spoilers discussion, and we will very clearly say when we are hopping into spoiler territory, so don't worry about that. I will also probably put a time code in the description or the show notes for where that starts. But yeah, the book is it's the fourth canon Thrawn book at this point. Before Disney took over, Timothy Zahn had written many books. There was obviously the original trilogy with Heir to the Empire. There were two other duology books about Thrawn. There was Outbound Flight, which actually was the first Star Wars book I ever read. He had a lot of Thrawn content, and Thrawn was brought back into canon with Rebels. We got the new Thrawn trilogy, which is Thrawn Treason, and Thrawn Alliances. And now we have the Ascendancy trilogy. So this first book takes place before everything else in canon Thrawn material. It is his time with the Chiss Ascendancy, his home culture out in the unknown regions of space. The book is honestly you can read my review. It's incredible. I think it's one of the best canon books written so far, it does so much for his character, and it's a thrilling read from front to back, and I cannot wait for the next installment. It's honestly, after getting through this, I was a little sad. I'm there's only 2 more books of this, and I want more. But if you have any interest at all, go read Thrawn Treason or Thrawn Chaos Rising. I will say there's obviously some people that might have questions about if you need to read all the other books first. I would highly can you get away with it? Absolutely. There isn't too much because this is, it's not in the Empire space or the Republic space. So you don't have to be as familiar with characters from those first books. There are a few that do crossover. I think just is one character, but that's obviously important. You can get away with it, yes. If you are a person who read the Heir to the Empire and all those books, you could probably really get away with it. Not having read the newer Thrawn books. So yeah, can't you? Yes. I think you can still enjoy it. It's so removed from everything else. And they do a good job of introducing everything and explaining everything that's going on. But I definitely think you would get the most enjoyment out of this had you gone through and read the new canon Thrawn trilogy So Thrawn alliances, and Thrawn treason. Also, having read or watched Rebels will help. Seasons 3 and 4 specifically. I don't think that one is quite as necessary as the books, at all, just because that takes place a little bit after the books, the trilogy books. So, well, it kind of like goes in between, but the final season definitely after the books. So I would recommend reading the other books first. They're all fantastic. Thrawn Alliance is not my favorite, but still a good book overall, and the other two I think are great. So would read those if you can. If you haven't, you just want to get into this, no problems. You might have you could have Wikipedia as a little bit of a help, maybe. If you don't understand something, but you could hop into this if you really wanted to. One of the things I really enjoyed about it was it just felt more pure sci-fi. Like I haven't read all of Dune. I'm probably 40 pages in, and it's been sitting on my bookshelf untouched for a few months now. But I got some similar vibes to that. You have these ruling families. You have this this strong political structure. It just felt more sci-fi compared to what Star Wars normally is. Because Star Wars it's not really sci-fi. So I did enjoy that change of pace. I think that's probably close to all I can say without getting into spoilers. It's a very good book. If you haven't picked it up at this point and you're still listening, go do that. Again, you can check out my written review with some more in-depth thoughts on the non-spoiler side and spoiler side on thespiceden.com. Just go down to book reviews and check out this latest one. So yeah, with that, we are going to hop into spoilers. This is your last chance to turn back. Spoilers starting now. So yeah, the book is absolutely fantastic. Our basic plot, we're following Thrawn in his time in the Chiss Ascendancy. He is still a military commander. He works he's with the Expansionary Defense Fleet, and we see, he's definitely not loved by his people. He's untraditional. He skirts the lines of the non-confrontation, or not the non-confrontational, the non, he can't initiate combat. The standard Chiss thing from back in Legends. This book brings a lot back from Legends for Thrawn. So yeah, he skirts that line. He's not perfect. He was a golden boy for a while, but still they're not sure how they feel about it. But then he made a big mistake, as we're told later, and that kind of changes everything. But yeah, he's working for the defense fleet as a commander on a ship, and he is brought in to solve an issue that the Supreme General thinks that he's best suited for. The book opens up with an attack on Scylla, which is mentioned. It was in the chapter released, the excerpt released a couple months ago, and all the syndicature is so focused on that, but the general thinks that it's something else is up, so he brings in Thrawn to be basically, Thrawn Sherlock, as he always is, and sends him off on this journey where he discovers the Nicardoon pirates, and they are a imminent threat to the Ascendancy, but no one else really sees it, and he has to take them down with their leader, Yiv the Benevolent. So it's very interesting just seeing this part of the galaxy. I have some just some general notes and some highlights, some cool things I thought were interesting as I was reading. So I'm not gonna do plot by plot breakdown. If you're this far, you've probably read the book. So just some cool things I thought were interesting throughout. At the very first page, there's kind of tell about the Chiss Ascendancy, and it's existed for thousands of years apparently. So it's quite possible that it predates the Republic. It's possible that is the case. We're not, we can't know for sure. We really don't know. I don't think we really know how old the Republic is in canon. Maybe, but and obviously thousands of years is a bit ambiguous, but it is not a new society, which makes sense because when you start with a local a local species that makes their own society on a planet, that's going to come before interstellar travel or galactic or hyperspace travel or stuff like that. But the Ascendancy is not just Scylla; it's made up of multiple worlds in this part of the galaxy. We kind of learned about the unexplored regions. They call it the chaos. So what happens is we've known for a while that it's a very difficult section of space to travel through. That's what you see it with Kylo going to Exegol, trying to have to do jump after jump through all this crazy part of space, and they describe it in the Rise of Skywalker novelization. We see a little bit of it in Rebels as well, actually, which is kind of surprising, but what makes it so difficult is it didn't used to be that way, but at some point there were like supernovas and like cataclysmic events on a galactic scale that pretty much just set off a chain reaction of catastrophe in this area of space. And it changed the physics of the area, like the gravitational. There's so many like gravitational anomalies, and everything's in flux. So you can't chart a normal hyperspace route because everything's constantly changing. Like if you just try to be like, oh yeah, point A to point B, you're gonna run into something and die. So you can't just do like a straight line jump because everything's in flux and everything's changing. And that's why you need the Chiss Skywalkers, which they were we learn about in slightly in Alliances and a lot more in Treason. They have the ability to see using the Force, using their third sight. Through they can see through everything and find the safe path. So that's why it's such a isolated area. But the Chiss Ascendancy is like a safe bubble within the chaos. And they have many planets that are part of their government within that area. One thing I really loved about this book is the structure of the memory chapters. In Alliances, we use a split timeline book where half the book was during the Clone Wars and half was during the days of the Empire. And honestly, like as much as like I said earlier, it's not my favorite book, but I still enjoyed it. But something like I found so strange when I would read that book is, and I think I liked the Empire part a little bit more, but it wasn't like super, like it wasn't a strong difference in opinions on the two timelines. It was regardless of what I was reading, whether I was currently reading Clone Wars or currently reading Empire stuff, the moment the chapter switched timelines, I was like, I don't want to read this. And it would take me like quite a few pages to kind of like get back into the swing of things and get enthusiastic about it again. Which, is so strange, but that's how it was every time I read that book. But with this, I found myself enjoying it much more. I think it helps that the memory chapters, they're not like, it's not like every other chapter's in memory. They're like spread out much more. There are fewer of them. And they're also very short. Like they're on average, I think most of them are at most like 4 pages. And I think even the print was larger and more spaced out. So I think it helped. It gave us little interesting glimpses into Thrawn's earlier life. And I really liked that structure. I think it worked quite well. It allowed this book it allowed it to not be a straight origin story, but still give us the origin of Thrawn. Like, origin stories can be kind of boring. They can be very cookie cutter. We didn't get that. We got a story of Thrawn earlier in his career, but it didn't have to be the very first thing he did. I think Zahn did a good job of doing that. It's kind of a through line in this book, just like in the Empire. Thrawn doesn't understand politics. He doesn't understand people. So that definitely works to his detriment in this book. One thing that I thought was interesting is, so I told you I read Outbound Flight before. I haven't read Heir to the Empire or anything, but I do have a little bit of a background in Legends with Thrawn, and some of the stuff they had a few nods to Outbound Flight specifically. The first is Thras, who is his brother in canon, just straight like dies off screen. They're talking about one of his like past failures. So like, oh yeah, and then Mithraphis died in that mission you were on. It's like, wait, hold on. Like I kind of like skimmed over it and was kept going, and then like went back to look something up. I'm like, oh, that's Thras. That was his brother in canon. That was kind of a big deal. He was in Outbound Flight and sacrificed himself in that book, and he just like dies off screen in this book. It was like, well, it's cool that he exists, but maybe we'll get, if we have more memory chapters in the next book or something, or if the next book is further back in the timeline, we'll get some of him. But yeah, he's dead, so that's something. Another thing I thought was interesting was when they first started encountering the pirates and they broke into that like box system. He went into like stealth mode in the asteroids to try and avoid the aliens, which was very similar to Treason. I think we got a lot of similarities between his work in the original or the canon trilogy. In Memory 4, this was huge. They talked about the Sith and Republic War. It was, the war between the two thousands of years ago, and the Chiss were potentially somewhat involved with it. It was a big part of Legends, and now it at least exists again, so that's pretty huge. Another cool thing was I think we found the origins of the artwork on the Chimera, his Imperial capital ship. It has a bunch of snakes, and it's on the cover of the book. But he goes to meet these aliens that are being like subjugated by the Nakrudian pirates, and he like talks about trying to preserve art and stuff like that. It's kind of a cover story, but at the end, the leader of this group gives him a pair of rings, and it's like two rings that are kind of connected together that he wears on his alien hands, And he talks about how it has these designs, these snakes with like smaller snakes coming out, and I'm pretty sure that is the origin of the Chimera artwork. I thought that was really cool. I don't think there's been an explanation for that before, at least in canon. I don't think. I don't even know if that was part of Legends or if it was just like, hey, he has a cool snake ship. Another thing that was interesting was, in addition, like I said before, you have to have a Chiss Skywalker to jump through the chaos. You can do like short, like micro jump by jump, but it's a trip. A trip that could take a Skywalker a few hours would take you weeks or months by the slower method. The other way you can do it is there's a neutral navigators guild you can hire a Pathfinder from, and they use what they call it the Great Presence, which it's kind of like their analog to the Force or to Third Sight. That allows them to go into a trance and see a bright light that they like drive towards, basically, with the ship. And even more interesting is it's a secret, but they are able to track each other. So if one Pathfinder goes off, the other can go enter the Great Presence and find the other Pathfinder, which comes into play later. Something really cool about the memory chapters, they expand a lot on Aralani, or how she was formerly known as Ziara, because she was part of the Irizi, Irizi, family. And she's an admiral. Thrawn was definitely not an admiral. She has some superiority there in the military sense. But she has, I think, an interesting relationship with Thrawn. I feel like it's kind of like a reverse Eli Vanto relationship, where she's kind of Thrawn's mentor that's trying to guide him through scenarios, and she like gets a little bit more of the political stuff. But Thrawn is still kind of a savant in his approach to art and military and strategy. I thought it was cool to see she plays like a bit of a mentor, but it's not like she's outright superior to them. They just have different strengths. I thought that was interesting to see. And I'm definitely on the Aralani Thrawn ship at this point. So like I'm all for more of that. And we get to learn more about one specific navigator, Cheery or Sherry, who is on Aralani, or she's on Thrawn's ship actually. And we at one point we have to pull the caretaker away from her. They all have like motherly figures that keep them, basically take care of them on the ship, because they're 7 to 14-year-olds. Like imagine having like a small child and be like, all right, 8-year-old, we're going to the beach, you're driving. And like just the stress of that. And it's like 8-year-old, you're driving, if you mess up, we all die. So like it's such an emotionally taxing, and also it's physically taxing. Like they go through a lot going into Third Sight. But they have to pull away her caretaker for a mission with Thrawn, and Aralani is appointed to be the replacement caretaker, and we see her really care about this girl. I think it really shows why she cares so much about the Skywalkers in Thrawn Treason, besides the fact that they're obviously like they're really just a very valuable asset to the Chiss. Like they wouldn't be able to function at such a high level without these little girls and their powers. And we see a lot of that in the book where they're not treated as much as people. Obviously, they try and give them a lot. They try and have caretakers take care of them. They try and place them in good families when they leave. They give them a lot. There's a lot of benefits to it, but at the same time, you're really a tool. So yeah, it's a rough spot. It's obviously very emotionally and physically taxing. And another thing about Skywalkers is we learn that Thrawn had a younger blood sister that was taken away from him when he was young, and she was made a Skywalker. Well, it's assumed that she was made a Skywalker. She disappeared one day. My older sister was gone, and that's all we ever saw from her. So she's probably a Skywalker now. I'll never see her again. I'm wondering if that's going to come back into play if they go through and dig through records to try and find her. They mentioned it as a potential possibility. So I don't know if it's a Chekhov's gun situation. I don't know if we're going to see that in the next book or the book after, but we'll see. Another Outbound Flight nod we got, I feel like this is kind of a tribute, is it was one of the memory chapter, Memory 9. Thrawn and Arlani are on a mission. They have to save a luxury liner. It was described as a cylinder tube with D wings on the outside, which sounds very similar to the Outbound Flight design. Outbound Flight had 6 dreadnoughts, which were all designated by D1 through 6. So not quite D wing shaped, but I think the idea is there because it's basically burning in towards a gas giant. And it's lost control. So Thrawn is trying to hold on with his tractor beam. It's not enough. He has Arlani come in for the backup with her tractor beam, and he goes in and shoots the wings off to lighten the load and take everyone off. So it's very similar, I think, to Outbound Flight. In that one, when it's crashing down, all the passengers are in D4. So the 6 o'clock position on the ship. And you had Thras and a Jedi apprentice in D1, so the 12 o'clock position, and they had to flip it so the passengers would land upright and have the best chance of living. I think it's similar. You have it's a cylindrical ship with outriggers out there with cabins and stuff, luxury cabins. So I think there was definitely an homage painted there. Another thing I noticed that was similar to treason was Thrawn still has the strategy of chucking dead ships with a tractor beam. He several times in this book just hucks shuttles as bombs. So he did that a lot in treason, where he'd send off TIE defenders that were lights out and just use the tractor beam to send them, and then they come around from the rear and attack capital ships. We have a similar thing here with some Chiss shuttles that he would send off with some missiles. So I thought that was kind of cool. We see that he's definitely done that strategy before. And I think one of the other cool thing we're gonna 3 more cool details I noticed, or just not 3 more cool things. Was Talias going back to the myth, basically homestead, to go through the trials. I thought that was incredibly interesting. We meet the myth patriarch, which is such a high level character in the society that I didn't expect to ever see that guy. But we got to see again more of an insight on the Chiss culture, which was part of what's so cool about this book. Another one was the freaking Alliance's tie-in. I did not see that coming. At one point, Thrawn and Cherry are off scouting planets for the Nickerdoon pirates and trying to interfere with them. And they're oh, we came across this planet. There's a bunch of some drones or droids flying around, and we weren't sure about what was going on there. And then we fly to this other planet, and this lady comes over the comm. It's I'm Duja. Who are you? And it's what? Wait, what is this? Thrawn Alliances right now? But yeah, sure enough, it's straight up it's the same dialogue and everything of where Thrawn goes down and meets Anakin for the first time in Alliances, and they're yeah, he goes on this mission, and then several weeks later, we just continue on with the story. It's whoa, I did not see that happening. But the nice thing is that really helps with the people trying to place it more precisely in the timeline. I believe that the Clone Wars part of Alliances takes place pretty late in the Clone Wars era. So we got that time was very, very interesting, and it just brings a whole new light to that Alliances book. The last thing I want to talk about is just it's something cool I picked out of Memory 12 is like him and Arlani are talking, and he talks about how like for non-human or non-Chiss, basically aliens to him, he doesn't see them as people. He doesn't see them as good or bad. He just sees them as assets. Like he's so analytical. He like only sees the chessboard. He can't see the human or the emotional part of everything. And so yeah, overall, like I know I just basically just like hit my I know I just basically read off my Google Keep note of like, oh, that was a cool thing, but really this book is so awesome. If you listen this far, I'm assuming you've read it anyway, so who cares? But I really love it. Go check out the review if you want any more thoughts. I talked a little bit more about just like the overall what I thought about like characters, plot, and world building. Those are my 3 criteria for the review. Fantastic book. I cannot wait to read more of this. I'm really excited because this book was delayed back in I think like maybe March, sometime around there. And it was originally supposed to come out in August. It was delayed to October, brought forward to September. And when they delayed it, I'm like 90% sure that they had said that the book was done being written. They just had some like publishing hiccups, and that's what caused it to be pushed back. So my hope is that Zahn has had a pretty decent head start on getting into book 2. We can definitely, not 100% sure. We can most likely expect book 2 to come out in 2021. But my hope is that he's had a good enough head start that it's not going to be like December of next year. So I will be anxiously awaiting that. I don't know if I'll be able to bust it out in a week like I did this time. But I'm so excited to see that and talk with you guys about book 2 later. So in the meantime, you have to figure out what I'm going to do for next week. If that's going to be a Queen's Peril or a Dr. Aphra. I probably won't be Alphabet Squadron because I need to buy that book. But yeah, other than that, I think that's about it. Thanks for listening to me ramble about cool Thrawn stuff for half an hour. And if you like what you heard, you can check me out at Instagram, you can check me out on Instagram and Twitter at SpicedInPod. Go to thespicedin.com for all kinds of cool written content. You can check out the YouTube channel. I've got a new Galaxy Heroes video finally, and we'll be doing the Lego build sometime in the next week or 2, hopefully. So check all that out. You can also find me at on Patreon if you want to support me financially and help the show. I'd greatly appreciate that. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening. Thanks to Gramble for the music, and may the Force be with you.